Hello there. Today, Elmo is going to show you the letter Y and some words that end with Y. Hey, come back here. Elmo will be right back.
What's up, everybody? The Radix here, the one from 72, the ultra neutral, and I'm going to revisit the whole thing with the footprints in my school and how they matched up with the Mothman footprints. So it's the same being, same as the gargoyles. And the reason why I'm revisiting this is because I just watched a documentary not too long ago, and I've been meaning to put this together, but there's a gentleman who describes exactly the same footprints that was on the floor in my school. I mean, even the whole fact that he says that they looked like they were burned in, and that's what I always said too. It looked like they were double layered, right? Like it looked like there was like this grayish film, like they were burned into the floor, but there was that dirt that was kind of that type of dirt that was also there too. It was like double layered, very weird how it was like that. And also, when I talked about the marks that was on the wall, that was this, heavy black marks with that looked like also with like gray film. It looked like it was kind of burnt in. But not only does you're not just hearing it from me, you're hearing it from somebody else who describes the same thing. And in fact, he also says that the footprints are in a Y shape, not a W shape like what they show in the video. When I put on his video, I'm going to show it for you. They show what looks like a pelican's footprint or something. That is not the pictures that they took at the scene, because he says it was in a Y, and there's a clear difference between a Y and a W. So they screwed that up in the video when they posted that. That definitely was not the prints that he was talking about. In fact, he didn't even say that he ever went back and took the pictures. So whoever the editor is, they're a total idiot, because they put something like some bird prints that don't look even like a Y shape. And also in this video, we're going to go back and re-listen to my ex-wife, who came to the school, was the first person to come there that I called to come see what I'm seeing. I'm like, you need to come see this, and then there was another person that showed up too, but I don't have contact with him anymore. But however, I want you to listen to her interview first, to re-listen to it. And I'm sorry about the music in the background on an interview. I actually was on the road when I did that interview with her, and I was trying to get the editing done this is like when I was on my way out to Alcor. In fact, that was in January of 2021 when I did the interview. But I want you to listen to specifically what she says and how she describes these footprints. And keep in mind that was taken in 2001, January 2001, and I think the video for that other Mothman thing that I was telling you about, I think that didn't come out until, that just came out recently. I think it's I think it came out a little bit later. So, and also, when she saw this, it was in 2017 when I saw it, that's when we saw it. So that's what she's describing, and obviously I have the video of it. So I want you to listen to her first, and then I'll play his video, and then you can listen to his what he has to say.
You answered the door, you were pretty shaken, and you showed me like these weird prints on the floor. We were trying to figure out what they may have came from. There were almost, in my mind, they were, you think of like a reptile or something with two toes, and they were kind of widespread apart, but they were smaller. They weren't really big. But the weird thing was they came from the doorway that went in between your space and the hall, and they look like they came literally through the door, because when we opened up the door, there was nothing on the other side of the door at all on the ground. But then, you showed me it looked like almost like a antler or a horn or something, like scraped the wall, and it went from one side to the other. But there was a bolt on the door, like one of those metal ones that you pull the latch over and then put a padlock through. And so nothing could have gotten through the door. So, we were just trying to figure things out, looking outside. It's a real urban area right across the street from a high school. And, there's no mud outside, nothing like that substance that the tracks were made on the mat from. We looked around outside, and, it's literally concrete and sidewalks. So, it looked really strange because the top, it's almost as if there were 2 layers to the prints, as if almost like they were burned in. I know that sounds strange, but it's like there was a layer on top and then a layer underneath. And then the mark on the wall, it was almost like a substance, like it reminded me of like maybe something like chalky or earthy type substance. And it was like a strange greenish, brownish, yellow type color. So then I hung out for a little bit, and we were trying to figure things out, like what it might have been, and pull in different things like shoes and things like that to see what could it have possibly been, but we couldn't figure anything out. And when you opened up the door, there was a hallway going to a bathroom with like old commercial carpet or something on the ground. But the odd thing about the prints was they look like, on your side of the door, they look like they had come from that direction. They obviously looked like they were pointing that way. Because of the shape of them, there's no way they could have been pointing the other way. But when you open the door, there was nothing on the ground or on the carpet on the other side at all that looked like, you would think if something or someone or whatever stepped in that weird substance, and then they walked from that hallway into the karate school, that you would think that there would have been some kind of print on the other side of the door, on the carpeting or something. There was nothing, like literally nothing.
And as far as my character, would you say that I'm the type of person that gets freaked out and spooked out about things all the time, or tries to make up supernatural things?
No, not at all. You're actually pretty stable as far as things like that go. I had never, actually, in all honesty, I've known you for over 10 years. I've never known you to be that like shook about something, like what the heck just happened. You weren't like some people might be hysterical or like lose their mind over something like that. You weren't like that. You were just you were shaken, but you were like perplexed and trying to put it together and figure out what it was and what might have happened in a logical explanation.
So as you also heard, she talked about a doorway, right? Like, because like I said, it came from the being came from through the door. Which is funny because in the interview that you're going to hear next, which is from, I think it's called The Mothman Legacy, is what I think the video is. You're going to hear this guy also say that when he saw the Mothman, it was actually in a doorway. Again, here's the other thing with the doorway. In other words, I think that he just caught the being off guard using, because I said this before, they use something when they come through portals, they have to use something that's shaped like a door, right? Like when we saw in Utah, and I said, oh my gosh, this is the portal. They have to use something that has the shape of a doorway to go through. They don't just pop in and out of just wherever. At least that's what it appears to me. It seems like they have to use something that is shaped like the portal that they're going through for them to cross over into the other side. Something has to do with the dimensions to cross through the dimensions, I guess, whatever. So yeah, I want you to listen to his interview and listen how he talks about doorway, how he talks about in the V shape, or well, in the Y shape, and also how he talks about, the way the marks look on the floor. It's exactly the same thing.
I would say I was probably 10, 11 at the time. And the holler that we lived in, like the last street light was probably, I'd say 100 feet away from where the house was that I saw the Mothman. I knew to be home before dark, but I wasn't. So when I was pushing my bike up the holler, the asphalt and the gravel started, that's where that house was. That house was abandoned. The guy that lived there, he got killed in the coal mines. And I happened to hear a noise, and I just happened to look over, and I seen something standing in the doorway that had red eyes. was really tall. I really remember the eyes, like the reddest red you ever see. He was at least 7 foot tall. So I started crying, and I felt like I stood there crying and looking at it for like at least 15 minutes. And here come my brother's friend, actually, out of the holler. He seen it too. He picked up a rock, threw it at it, and it just kind of vanished. I would say probably maybe a year later that me and one of my buddies went in that house, and there was we went in the basement part, and there was these weird footprints. It looked like they was burnt into the concrete. Best I can describe it, they was in a Y shape, and like they had black around them, like they got hot. Yeah, I thought about it for a lot, and I never really did go out in the bottom by myself. I was always home before dark after that. I was scared of that house, and finally when they tore it down, I was pretty happy. If somebody talks about the Mothman, I'll tell my story. You know, I always tell everybody, hey, I've seen that thing.
So as you see, you're not just hearing it from me, you're also hearing it from my ex-wife, who described the same thing, and now you're also hearing it from somebody who I have never met in my life. I don't know this guy. He probably has no idea about my story and the things that I, have experienced, or things that I have video evidence of. But if he was ever to see the footprints, it's a good possibility he would say, yeah, that's exactly what I saw too. And there has been only one other really clear, clean footprint that I've ever seen online when I was looking, because, after that happened to me in 2017, the first thing I did was try to figure out, was there anybody else that had anything like this ever happen? Like, I was online, like, for the next few days doing nothing but trying to do research to see if anybody else saw this. And I did come across one picture, but I can never find out the person who posted it. And that picture here's the picture here. You can see that it's in the snow, and that's almost the same identical footprint. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it is, again, in that Y shape, exactly what a Y looks like. And the way that the toes are, the way that they curve in, right? And that the fact that from the inside of the shape of the toes is all pretty much identical, the same distance as you see on the ones on the floor in my school, as well as the outside is very much the same shape. Now, that I explained before, that other little thing that you see down there at the very bottom of that footprint, that's just the tail. I'm pretty sure that that's just where the tail smacked down and hit the ground, because you can see how the outline, it doesn't break, right? Because the outline of the footprint is very predominant, and you see the outline of that other little thing that comes off there, that's also predominant. So that tells me that those are two separate substances. One is from the foot, and the other one's probably from the tail. So it gives you kind of an idea of the tail and the foot right there in that one picture. Also, if you look at where you see here, and this is, I just want to bring this up. This is the Vulture, the new Vulture costume that they're using for the Spider-Man movie, right? Well, if you look at how big his wings are, you can see also with the footprint, you see the feet, how they have that kind of the double toes. It's not exactly the same thing, but I just think that's funny. But the one thing I want to try to solve here is where people say, the big red glowing eyes, it looks like Mothman doesn't have really a head, like its head's really stooped down low. Well, you can see the proportions of the man's body, because the Vulture is just a man and he has this suit. Well, you see how big the wings engulf him, and then you see how low his head looks compared to with the wings. So it just gives you an optical illusion that if his eyes were glowing, it would look exactly like what people describe, from the shadows of Mothman. You would see that very, like, really low head, like the head would be very low down instead of like really up high, like with a protruding neck, like a big bird, like with those protruding necks, like an actual vulture would have a long neck, okay? Whereas you see here, the man's head is very, very low because his wings are very big. And so if you saw a shadow of that and you saw just the red glowing eyes, that's exactly the way the Mothman would look, which is funny because there you go. There's a good way to take a look at that. Also, here you can see the picture of a toy that you can buy that is the Mothman toy. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's completely wrong with this picture here that I don't really want to get into. The fact that they make the face look kind of like a bug face, that's just not the way. These are gargoyles. But anyhow, and that's not how they look. I'm pretty damn sure. But you can see here, the people who made this, they made the toes kind of exactly the same way that I described, the same way that you just heard us all describe, with that Y shape, you know. And if you were to actually go to Point Pleasant and go to the museum, you hear a lot of people describe, you know, more like bat-like wings, more like scales, and more like two toes. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, you know, and just go over that again. And also, like I said, you know, it wasn't by random what happened with me with the gargoyle, the draconian, the dragonkin, the Mothman, whatever you want to title them. To come unlock my mind. Like I said, you know, the very first sighting was November 12th, 1966, and 6 years later, in 1972, November 12th, exactly to the day, I was born. So, you know, it just was not I'm not a creature by chance. By design, and I'm just trying to understand more about myself and who I am and where I come from. With that, enjoy the rest of the time you have left.
The sightings begin. According to the West Virginia Department of Commerce, Mothman was first seen on November 12, 1966, by 5 grave diggers near the town of Clendenin, West Virginia.
It was November 12th, 1966, in the town of Clendenin, West Virginia. 5 men were digging a grave in a cemetery when they saw movement from a nearby tree. They stopped what they were doing and inspected the tree, when suddenly a brown figure leapt from the tree and flew right at them. It flew low to the ground, swooped over their heads, and off into the distance.
On November 12, 1966, in Clendenin, West Virginia, 5 gravediggers claimed to have seen what they describe as a man with wings, gliding over their heads.
November 12, 1966, Clendenin, West Virginia. 5 gravediggers are working in a small cemetery when something catches their eye. A human-like creature, bathed in shadows, just above the treetops. It swoops over their heads. They report it later, but many chalk it up to a trick of the gloom on an overcast night.
Broadcasting on all AM frequencies. I will be at the South Street Seaport every day at midday, when the sun is highest in the sky. If you are out there, if anyone is out there, I can provide food, I can provide shelter. I can provide security. If there's anybody out there, anybody, please, you are not alone.